Welcome back into Sports Nightly. I'm Jessica Coody, and very excited to be joined live here in studio with a very special guest, the new president of the University of Nebraska, Dr. Jeffrey Gold. Thank you so much for being here with us in studio tonight.
Great pleasure, Jessica. Thrilled.
Well, I had a great time chatting with you before the show started. You have a fascinating background, but let's start by letting Husker Nation get to know you a little bit. Tell us, if someone that knows you best were to ask to describe you, how would they describe you?
Well, there are many ways to describe me. Sometimes I describe myself as a recovering cardiac surgeon, if that's an apt description. Spent 25 years of my life doing heart surgery, mostly on little kiddos. But I've done a lot more than that. Prior to that, I attended engineering school at Cornell, med school at Cornell, spent many years training in the Boston area and in New York, and practiced for over 20 years. It was really an amazing journey. You know, I do get asked from time to time what my favorite title is. People ask me whether they want to call me President. Gold, they used to call me Chancellor. Sometimes they'd call me Doctor. I tell them my favorite title is Grandpa, because I have two beautiful twin grandchildren, just turned 8. And everybody else calls me Jeff, and that's absolutely fine, Jessica, for you to do that as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, this is a sports show, right? So tell us some of your backgrounds with sports. What are your favorite teams and sports that you like to follow?
Sure. You know, I grew up in the inner city of New York, and of course you can't grow up in New York without getting connected to the sports scenes. And one of the most important decisions you make growing up in New York City is to whether you're a Mets or a Yankee fan, because when the Subway Series gets played, you have to have a favorite. And of course, I became a Yankees fan, and for many years, I defined the end of the baseball season by when the Red Sox were eliminated. And that only lasted until I moved to Boston with my wife, and I had to rethink that a little bit. And now it's much more of a meritocracy to me and a little bit more egalitarian. But those were great days. But, you know, for many years, I had season Rangers tickets. When I was in college, I got really into college hockey. Cornell, of course, had a phenomenal hockey team in those days, and the young lady who I ultimately married and I used to have many dates going to the hockey games. But, you know, when I was in Ohio, I had the honor of serving as the head team physician, the honorary head team physician, let's call it, because I never really delivered health care. But it gave me an upfront and personal experience where I would literally stand on the gridiron with the team, and I understood very quickly that you had to pay attention, because those athletes are large and they move fast, and you can't get engulfed in a conversation with somebody. But it really gave me a tremendous experience. Got very involved with women's sports, which I really particularly enjoy, including volleyball and, of course, women's basketball for the athleticism. And then during my time as the chancellor of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, I not only had the pleasure of serving on the board of the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, the NCHC, which I would argue is among the most competitive. You know, in those days I would have said it is the most competitive hockey conference, but also served on the board of the Summit League. I actually chaired the board of the Summit League. And I'll tell you, one of the finest experiences I actually had was working with Josh Fenton, who at the time was the commissioner of the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, and we created the hockey bubble here in Omaha. And the idea there was, this was, you know, think where we were in the fall of the first year of the COVID pandemic, when so many sports were being canceled. And we used the expertise of the University of Nebraska Medical Center and all of our COVID work and things that we had done for the Department of Defense, for the NCAA, for Major League Baseball, for the NBA, etc. And we applied it to create a bubble environment for the NCHC to play the entire first half of the season at Baxter Arena. And I am really proud to tell you, Jessica, that not a single student, coach, trainer, anybody got COVID during that interval. It was so well organized. And, you know, again, you know, you might say, you know, having never been a college athlete, you might not know much about intercollegiate athletics, but let me tell you, I care a great deal.
Wow, that's incredible. A lot of fun stories there. John Baylor, our voice of Husker volleyball, would not like the Boston comment, though, about Boston Red Sox. He's a big Boston Red Sox fan. But being that you have been embedded with the state and you got to see the Volleyball Day Nebraska now that you're a volleyball fan.
Oh, actually,
How was that?
I was in the president's box for that. That was just over the top. And, you know, I've gotten to know John Cook a bit during the months preceding my becoming the 9th president of the university. And I've, you know, spent some time with many of our coaches and certainly with our new athletic director, Troy Dannon, who I think the world of. I spent a good deal of time on numerous occasions with Matt Rule, who I have just a huge amount of respect and confidence in.
Well, people across the state, they'll know your name and face well after leading the Med Center for the past 10 years. I know you're a leader at UNO as well, but your past experience as a physician and a surgeon, how has that prepared you to lead the University of Nebraska?
You know, in many ways, Jessica, and let me just give you a couple of examples. First, one thing you learn when you're the surgeon in the operating room, that while a lot of the responsibility rests on your shoulders, and let's just be very blunt about it, when you're doing children's heart surgery, this is not cosmetic surgery. This is really high-risk stuff. And the result of that surgery is only as good as the strength of the team. Your anesthesiologists, your perfusionists, your nurses, your technicians. It's only as good as the diagnostic skills of your cardiologist. It's only as good as the skills of your critical care doctors who are going to care for that child or that adult after that surgery. And you learn pretty quickly that this is a team sport. But I'll tell you, the other factor that really goes into my thoughts and decision making is when some family would trust their loved one to you. And, you know, think about a new mom with a neonate who needs critically important, life-saving heart surgery. That person, that family wants one and only one thing. And they don't ask you where you went to medical school or where you graduated in your class and what was your grade in calculus or anything like that. They just want to know that you're going to care for that child the same way you would care for your own child. And, you know, having children of my own at the time really gave me a huge perspective on that. And that's how I view the role of the presidency of this great university. When some family entrusts their child to us for their education, we have to make decisions as if this was our child. No different than when a patient goes to the University Medical Center and any number of our clinics or hospitals or ambulatory surgery centers. The rule of thumb is very simple. We care for our patients, we care for our students, we care for our faculty and staff the way we'd care for somebody we really love and care deeply about. You know, it's a very simple rule, but let me tell you, it really changes the world.
What an incredible perspective. Wow. You've been in this role for 2 weeks. We were talking, you've been all over the state. You've put a lot of miles on the car. But what have been your initial impressions? What are some of the things that you're tackling first?
Well, you know, having lived and worked here and been a very proud Nebraskan by choice for over 10 years, I have crossed this state many, many different times. I have spoken before more rotaries and town hall meetings, met more hospital directors, visited every community college, state college, and so much more. But I'll tell you that my recent travels across the state were really different, seeing it through the perspective of the president of this great university. And it just reinforced to me a couple of key concepts. One is that the university is critically important to the state. I cannot tell you how many families came up to me and told me about a loved one who is a graduate and is doing well in their job and set down their roots here and started a family here. I can't tell you how many times our farmers and ranchers came up to me and said, you know, were it not for the research done by our extension offices, or were it not for the clinic that you run in our community, we couldn't be successful in the farming and ranching business of our state. And that was an incredibly powerful message over and over and over again. But the second part of that, you know, just reinforced my 10-year experience, is that what makes Nebraska unique are the people. And I will tell you, the scenery was magnificent. We were out, you know, at Cedar Point at one of our extension centers. I will never forget, we flew from Ogallala to Valentine, and coming in low over the Niobrara Valley was just incredibly beautiful. Granted, it was hot as blazes that day. It was 104 degrees. But the scenery was just incredible. But at the end of the day, it is the people. It is the open, hardworking, caring people who conveyed to me that we're with you. we want nothing but the best for this great university, and we're going to stand with you to help you in any way we can. And I'll tell you, when I came back, I was just so humbled. It was just amazing.
So how do you go about figuring out what are the things you want to do first in this role?
Well, the most important thing that I get to do now, and I have done for the last several weeks, is listen. You know, when I crisscross the state, I ask the same questions. What could we be doing better? What should we do, less of, more of? And I asked a really interesting, what I thought was an interesting question, that if you had a completely clear slate, what I call a blue sky opportunity, and you could predict what the university would be doing in their community in 2030, what would it be? And we gave people a card that had a website on it, and their responsibility, what I charged them to do, and I can't tell you how many have done it because I haven't seen the numbers, was very simply to write back to me and tell me, you know, what it is that you'd like this great university to be. So I am meeting in large cities, small cities, rural counties, one-on-one, 100-to-1, 500-to-1, and asking those questions and just listening to people to create priorities. And I do understand that if we have 100 priorities or 50 priorities or 25 priorities, we have no priorities. So we have to be very crystal clear as to what we're going to be prioritizing, what we're going to be investing in. But I'll tell you this, we have to invest not only in being competitive, but we have to win. And I know this is a sports show, and so you have to win on the gridiron, and we've got to win on the hardwood. But we have to win in the classroom. We have to win in the research labs. We got to win in every one of our extension offices. And that's very clear to me. To get more granular than that, that's what I need to listen for.
That's great. Well, let's talk about a question that's asked a lot these days. Why college? I know you're the first in your family to go to college. So if someone were to ask you the question, is college worth it? What would be your response to that question?
Oh, there is no doubt by any metric you choose to quote, college is worth it. And, you know, as you said, I am a first-generation college student. You know, growing up in the inner city of New York, I got a lot of love from my parents, but they were not able to afford to help me go to college. And so through the generosity of scholarship support, work study, and student loans, I was able to go to college and go to medical school as well, and have an amazing career. But I'll tell you that every study has shown that the quality of life, the quantity of life, the earning ability, the safety of raising a family, any parameter that you want to look at is enhanced by a college degree. You know, I'll tell you, during the vetting period, I will never forget this. I was out at a town hall meeting in Curtis, Nebraska, at the NCTA facilities. And one of our farmers, the gentleman must have been in his 70s, maybe even older than that. I'm not a very good judge of people's age, so if I messed it up, I'm sorry. But he said to me, you know, Jeff, and I asked him to call me Jeff, universities need to teach students how to think, not what to think. And those words have really stuck with me for all of these months, because our job is to build an environment where our students learn how to be what I call critical thinkers, how to answer difficult questions, how to look things up, what trusted sources of information they need to have. It's not our job to teach them what to think, because the questions they're going to be asked and the life decisions that they're going to be asked to make during the course of their career and their family life, all that's going to change. I mean, it's sort of like when I was training in cardiac surgery in Boston, you know, in the Harvard system. I learned the absolute state-of-the-art of the surgical techniques, which medications to use, how to cut and sew, but from some of the greatest cardiac surgeons that ever lived. That's why I chose to train there. But I'll tell you, over my 25 years in the operating room, those procedures changed. And the medications I prescribed changed, and the indications for surgery and the diagnostic skills changed. I mean, today, the overwhelming majority of serious children's heart disease is diagnosed before children are born. They're diagnosed in utero. And so these children can be delivered in centers that are fully capable of dealing with these complex anomalies, as opposed to being born at somewhere in the middle of rural America and have to figure out that there's something seriously wrong with the kiddo and moving on. And so the ability to be a critical judge of new technology, particularly now in the generative AI world where we're looking at so much change in technology and in thinking, is critically important. And that's our job, and that's my job.
Oh, that's great. Okay, let's wrap things up talking some more sports. Another sports question, and Husker football kicking things off before you know it. What excites you the most about this upcoming football season?
Well, I've had the opportunity to attend quite a few games in my 10 years here, and there have been a lot of ups and downs. I've known the coaches, the athletic directors, met some of the trainers, et cetera. But the thing that I like is the electric atmosphere in Memorial Stadium. It is absolutely exciting, and I love to be on the field during the tunnel walk. I love to meet the fans and just literally walk through the stadium, and that's what I plan to do. I get to host the President's Box, of course, but you'll see me walking around. You'll see me on the field. I promise you I'm not going to be calling plays and timeouts, and I've got no eligibility left, so there's no chance there either. But you will see me, and I really, really look forward to it.
You going to be at Devaney as well?
You better believe it. I plan to do my best to attend every single one of the sports, at least for one event, if not more. That is my plan. My wife has said, Jeff, you need to do it, and I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to make my very best shot at it.
That's great. Your grandkid's going to be coming with you to a few of those?
You better believe it.
I love it. Dr. Jeffrey Gold, thank you so much for being here with us. What a fascinating conversation. We're going to hear much more from you. You're going to be joining us on Husker Game Day, on game days as well. So we'll look forward to hearing much more from you coming up here in the next few months.
Look forward to it. Anytime. Just let me know.
All right. Great stuff there. We've got to step aside for a break here on Sports Nightly. Greg Sharp back with me coming up right after this.